Right now, the government is carving a warning meant to be read 10,000 years from now for people who won't speak a single language that exists today. Outside the headquarters of the CIA stands a sculpture holding a code so good that the world's best codebreakers couldn't crack it for 35 years. And in a museum in Crete sits a disc stamped with symbols 3,700 years ago, and not one human being alive can read what it says. These are messages, things people deliberately made to be understood, reaching across time toward someone. Some we've cracked open and heard a voice from the deep past. Some arrived perfectly intact and still keep their secret. And some we're the ones trying to send. Languages die, symbols rot, civilizations forget. Let's start with the message that saved an entire civilization from silence. 1. The Rosetta Stone, the key that unlocked the dead. For 1,400 years, ancient Egypt was silent. One of the greatest civilizations that ever existed, the pyramids, the pharaohs, 3,000 years of history, had gone completely mute. Because everywhere you looked, on every temple wall and tomb, were those beautiful hieroglyphs. Birds, eyes, snakes, figures, and nobody on earth could read a single one. The knowledge of how to read them had died out, and an entire civilization's voice had been switched off, as if someone had hit mute on 3,000 years of human memory. Think about how terrifying that is. The Egyptians wrote down everything, their gods, their kings, their spells for the afterlife, their love poems, and all of it became wallpaper. Pretty, meaningless decoration. We stood inside the largest library of the ancient world, surrounded by millions of words, unable to hear a single one. Egypt was a locked room, and the key was gone. And then, in 1799, soldiers in Egypt found a broken slab of dark stone in a town called Rosetta. On it, the same message was carved 3 times, once in hieroglyphs, once in another Egyptian script, and once in ancient Greek. And ancient Greek we could still read. Suddenly there was a translation. The same words, in a language we understood, sitting right beside the symbols we didn't. It took 20 more years and an obsessive Frenchman named Champollion, who nearly worked himself to death over it, but the code finally cracked, and the birds and snakes turned back into words. The pharaohs spoke again. An entire dead civilization came roaring back to life, because one stone happened to carry the same message in a language that hadn't died. We came within a hair of losing ancient Egypt forever. One broken slab is all that stood between us and total silence. And it raises a haunting question that hangs over everything else in this video. How much have we already lost simply because the Rosetta Stone for it was never found? 2. The Phaistos Disc, the message that predates the printing press. On the island of Crete in 1908, an archaeologist digging through the ruins of an ancient Minoan palace found a single object that has tormented scholars ever since. It's a disc of fired clay, about the size of your palm, and both sides are covered in symbols. A little human figure, a fish, a bird, a flower, a strange figure with a feathered headdress, arranged in a spiral that winds from the rim into the center. It is around 3,700 years old. Those symbols weren't carved by hand. Each one was stamped into the wet clay with a pre-made punch, a separate physical stamp for every symbol. Whoever made this had a set of reusable stamps for making text. That is the basic principle of movable type, of the printing press, on a Greek island 3,000 years before Gutenberg. You'd only carve a full set of punches if you plan to use them again and again. There may once have been whole stacks of stamped Minoan documents, and this single disc could be the last survivor of a printing technology the world forgot for 3 millennia. And what does it say? Nobody knows. The symbols match no writing system on Earth. 100 years of brilliant minds, and the theories run wild. A prayer, a hymn, a story, a calendar, a game board, an early form of the still unreadable Minoan script. A stubborn few call the whole thing a hoax. The truth is locked inside those 45 symbols, stamped by someone who wanted them to last. And they have, perfectly, for 37 centuries, holding their meaning just out of reach. A message built to endure, that outlived the ability to read it. A quick one for you as we go, because the answers are fascinating to read. When you look at an object like this, do you think we'll eventually crack it, or are some messages gone for good? Because the next message wasn't left by the ancient world. It was built, on purpose, as a puzzle, by someone who is still alive. 3. Kryptos, the code at the heart of the CIA. In 1990, a sculpture was unveiled in a courtyard at the headquarters of the CIA in Langley, Virginia, the most secretive intelligence agency in the world, packed with the best codebreakers on the planet. The sculpture is a great curving copper scroll, and punched through it are roughly 1,800 letters, forming 4 encrypted messages. Its name is Kryptos, Greek for hidden, and the artist, Jim Sanborn, did something audacious. He built a code and planted it in the front yard of the people whose entire job is breaking codes, and dared them to solve it. 3 of the 4 messages fell over the years, cracked by the NSA, the CIA, and clever members of the public. Strange poetic lines about something invisible and buried. But the 4th, the final 97 letters known as K4, became one of the most famous unsolved codes on Earth. For 35 years it held. The world's best cryptographers hammered at it. Sanborn released tiny clues that a stretch of letters decodes to Berlin, then clock. Nobody could break it. It sat there in front of the CIA, silently winning for 3.5 decades. And then, in a twist nobody saw coming, the answer escaped by accident. In 2025, journalists digging through papers the artist had donated to a museum archive found loose scraps of text that pieced together into the full solution to K4. They'd found it not by cracking the code, but because Sanborn had accidentally filed it among his own documents years earlier while ill. He confirmed it was real, then asked the museum to seal those files until the year 2075. The solution to the world's most famous code was found, confirmed, and locked back up for 50 years. He even revealed there's a 5th secret waiting beyond K4. The message at the heart of the CIA was solved, and you still aren't allowed to know what it says. 4. The nuclear warning, a message for the year 12,000. This is the strangest message on this list, because it hasn't fully been written yet, and the people writing it are terrified of getting it wrong. Deep beneath the New Mexico desert, the United States buries some of its most dangerous nuclear waste, material that will remain lethally radioactive for 10,000 years. And that creates a problem unlike any other in human history. How do you put up a sign that can still be understood 10,000 years from now? Sit with that number. 10,000 years ago, writing didn't exist. The pyramids are only about 4,500 years old. Every language alive today will be gone or twisted beyond recognition long before this waste is safe. Imagine a message from the last ice age trying to warn you. That's the gap these scientists are trying to shout across, in the other direction. They can't use English. They can't use the radiation symbol because in 10,000 years it might mean nothing, or worse, it might look like treasure marking something valuable and lure people straight in. So a team of linguists, scientists, anthropologists, and artists was assembled to solve maybe the hardest communication problem ever posed. Design a warning that needs no language and survives 100 centuries. Their proposed solutions are the stuff of nightmares, and they're real. A vast field of giant jagged concrete thorns bursting from the ground. A landscape of thorns so menacing that anyone approaching feels in their gut that this is a place of dread. And a message translated into every form imaginable that reads like a curse from the future. This is not a place of honor. Nothing valuable is here. What is here was dangerous and repulsive to us. The danger is still present in your time as it was in ours. Remember, that's not from an ancient tomb. It's a message we are writing right now to our own distant descendants, praying they'll be frightened enough to stay away. We have become the ancient civilization carving warnings onto a tomb, and we're discovering it might not work. 5. The Voyager Golden Record, the message thrown into the stars. Every other message in this video was meant for other humans. This one was aimed at something else entirely, and it is, right now, the most far-flung message our species has ever sent. In 1977, NASA launched the 2 Voyager probes, and bolted to the side of each one was a gold-plated record, a literal phonograph record, etched with the story of humanity, designed to last not thousands but potentially a billion years in the emptiness of space. A team led by the astronomer Carl Sagan had to answer an impossible question. If you could send one message to represent all of humanity to a mind that has never met us, an alien intelligence, or perhaps our own descendants in the far future, what would you put on it? What they chose is enough to break your heart a little. Greetings in 55 languages, a mother kissing her child, laughter, a human heartbeat, whale song, thunder. Music from across the world, Bach, Chuck Berry, a Bulgarian folk singer, and over 100 photographs encoded into the grooves, with instructions in the universal language of physics on how to build a player and decode them. And here is the quiet, staggering fact. Both Voyager probes have now left our solar system entirely, drifting in interstellar space farther than any object humans have ever made. Still going, carrying their golden message in a silence so deep, the record will likely outlast the Earth itself. Long after our sun has died, after every pyramid and tomb has turned to dust, 2 golden discs may still be sailing through the dark, whispering that we were here, that we loved and sang, and reached out to anyone who might one day catch the bottle we threw into the cosmic sea. It is the loneliest and most hopeful message ever made. 6. The Georgia Guidestones, the warning no one claimed. In 1980, in a quiet field in the state of Georgia, a monument appeared that looked like an American Stonehenge. 5 towering granite slabs, 16 feet tall, capped with a massive stone, precisely aligned to the sun and the stars. And carved into them in 8 different languages were 10 commandments for surviving an apocalypse. Instructions for how the broken remnants of humanity should rebuild civilization after some great catastrophe. It was, openly and deliberately, a message left for the survivors of the end of the world. But the mystery wasn't only what it said, it was who said it. The monument was commissioned by a man who walked into a granite company, gave only a fake name, R.C. Christian, paid, and vanished. To this day, no one knows who was behind it, and that anonymity poured gasoline on the speculation. Especially the first commandment, maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. To many, that wasn't guidance. It sounded like a call to wipe out most of the people alive. The theories exploded. A secret society, occultists, a shadowy elite announcing a new world order, hidden in plain sight in a Georgia field. For 4 decades, the Guidestones stood there, a magnet for conspiracy, pilgrimage, and fury. And then, in 2022, in the pre-dawn dark, someone detonated a bomb at the base of the monument, blasting one of the giant slabs apart. For safety, the authorities demolished the rest that same day. The anonymous message for the end of the world was itself destroyed by an unknown hand for unknown reasons, the mystery of its death matching the mystery of its birth. Whoever R.C. Christian really was, his warning to the future is gone now, reduced to rubble, its true meaning buried with the man who refused to give his name. 7. The Voynich Manuscript, the book no one can read. We end with the most beautiful and infuriating message of all, a book around 600 years old that has defeated every single person who has ever tried to read it. It sits in a library at Yale University, and it is filled, page after page, with flowing, confident handwriting in an elegant script, clearly a real text, written by someone who knew exactly what they were saying. There is just one problem. The language it's written in does not exist. It matches nothing on Earth, living or dead. People call it simply Voynich, and it gets stranger the longer you look. The pages are crowded with colored illustrations, drawings of plants that match no species that has ever grown on this planet, diagrams of stars and zodiacs and cosmic wheels, and bizarre images of tiny naked women bathing in networks of green pools and tubes that look almost like plumbing or biology or something nobody can name. Carbon dating proves the book is real and old. The pages were made in the early 1400s, so it's no modern fake. Somebody, 6 centuries ago, sat down and filled 200 pages with meticulous, consistent, confident text in a language no human has ever been able to crack. So what is it? The theories are a war with no winner. Some say it's coded medieval medicine or alchemy, a genius hiding knowledge from the church. Some pin it on famous minds, the philosopher Roger Bacon, even Leonardo da Vinci. Some believe it's speaking in tongues, a trance language poured out by a mystic. Wilder voices insist its alien plants prove it isn't from this world. And then the most deflating theory, that it's a magnificent hoax, beautiful gibberish made to swindle a buyer 600 years ago. But here's what keeps that from settling the matter. The text obeys hidden rules. Its words follow statistical patterns that look unnervingly like a real language, not random scribbling. Whoever made it either wrote a genuine language we've completely lost, or built a fake so perfect it imitates the deep structure of language itself. Either way, someone reached across 600 years to hand us a book, and we are still standing here, holding it, unable to read a single word. The message arrived. We just can't open it. So look at what all 7 of these have in common. Every one of them is the same act, a hand reaching through time, trying to make contact. And together, they show how fragile that reach really is. We almost lost ancient Egypt entirely, and one broken stone saved it. We are holding messages right now, the disc, the manuscript, that we simply cannot open, sealed by nothing more than the passage of years. And when we try to send our own message forward, to warn the future about the poison we've buried, we find ourselves nearly helpless, unsure if anything we carve will still make sense to the minds that come after us. Somewhere in the ground, or on a wall, or in a drawer, there are almost certainly messages waiting that we will never crack. Bottles thrown into the ocean of time that will never be opened. Voices that will never be heard. And one day, far from now, someone may stand exactly where you are standing, holding something we left behind. A sign, a disc, a golden record, turning it over in their hands and wondering what on earth we were trying to tell them. The question isn't just whether we can read the messages of the past, it's whether anyone will ever be able to read ours. Some messages are still waiting to be opened, and maybe one of them is waiting for you. See you next time.